He didn't look like a monster. He didn't sound like a killer. Just a quiet man in his 20s, polite, soft-spoken, even shy. But inside that small, stuffy apartment in Milwaukee, Jeffrey Dahmer was building a private hell. A place where love meant death, where silence screamed, where bones whispered secrets. Welcome to True Crime Hub. Tonight, we're walking into one of the darkest cases in American history, and asking a question that may haunt you. Would you have noticed him, or looked away, like everyone else did? It started with one man escaping, barefoot, in handcuffs, terrified. Tracy Edwards ran from Dahmer's apartment, flagged down a police car. He told them about the knife, the cuffs, the strange smell. Officers went back to apartment 213. What they found was worse than anyone could imagine. A severed head in the fridge, 3 more in a cabinet, jars of hearts, livers, and brains. A barrel of acid filled with dissolving flesh. Polaroids of bodies, posed, mutilated, frozen in time. This wasn't just a murder scene. It was a morgue, a torture chamber, a place where the line between human and object had vanished. Neighbors had been calling for months. Something smells like death. We hear screaming. There's something wrong. But each time, the complaints were brushed off. Too strange, too unlikely. One night, a neighbor saw a bleeding, naked teenage boy in the hallway. 14 years old, drugged, dazed. She called 911 in a panic. Officers showed up and gave him back to Dahmer. That boy was murdered hours later. His name was Connor something. He could have been saved, but instead, the system failed him. And in true crime, sometimes the worst monsters wear uniforms of silence. Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't born a killer. He was a boy, quiet, strange, deeply alone. His parents were constantly fighting. He began drinking at 14. He found comfort in control, dissecting dead animals, storing roadkill in jars. His mind slowly rewired itself, not toward hate, but toward obsession, toward possession, toward never being left again. He didn't kill for rage. He killed to keep. If I couldn't make them stay, I'd make them mine. His first victim was Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker. They drank, talked, bonded. But when Stephen wanted to leave, Dahmer panicked. He struck him with a dumbbell, strangled him, then spent days hiding the body, dissolving it in acid. Over the next 13 years, the pattern would grow darker. Drugs, drills, incisions. His goal, a living puppet, obedient, silent, forever his. Some victims he kept for days, bathed them, slept beside them, ate parts of them. I wanted them to be a part of me, he later confessed. His version of intimacy was irreversible. Many of Dahmer's victims were gay men. Men of color, men no one was looking for. Was it racism, homophobia, or just a society too uncomfortable to look closely at what didn't fit the mold? Either way, the system failed over and over again. Victims were dismissed. Witnesses weren't believed. The truth was right there, and we walked away from it. After Tracy Edwards escaped, everything unraveled fast. Police found evidence for 17 murders. Dahmer confessed calmly, openly. No rage, no defiance, just chilling honesty. He told detectives every detail, even offered to help them find remains. In court, he said, I should be dead for what I did. He was sentenced to 957 years in prison. But in 1994, another inmate beat him to death with a metal bar in the prison gym. Some called it justice, others called it escape. At True Crime Hub, we tell stories to understand, not to glorify evil, but to expose it, to ask the uncomfortable questions. How many times do we ignore the signs? How often do we dismiss the quiet ones? What happens when we stop listening to those who cry for help? We want to believe we'd see a monster, but monsters don't always growl. Sometimes they smile, offer you a drink, invite you inside. The real horror is how easy it was for all of us to look away. What happened in apartment 213 still echoes in the true crime world. But there are other stories just as chilling, just as overlooked. Stories you need to hear. Stories that remind us evil isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and next door. Subscribe to True Crime Hub, because the next case might be more disturbing than this one.